Hi there. So, why is tarot so important to understand? Very simple. The reason why tarot is so important to understand is because it is a living book. If you look at the actual order in the book, you have 1 followed by 2, followed by 3, followed by 4, and so on. And this is the actual book. This is the Santa Muerte Tarot deck. So, why is it that in a reading we get, for example, number 6? If this is, let's say this is our first reading. Let's say you take a reading for the first time, and you come up with 6. Shouldn't it be 1 automatically? Well, no, because it's not a linear book. It is a non-linear book. It is a living book. So imagine all of these as different places to be, different meanings of time, and different dimensions. And these existences are all scattered around. So it's like a living, moving, breathing book working within itself, right? And the thing is that when you find something within yourself that feels the most right, this is the most important thing to realize, is that we are actually the keepers of our own reality, and because of this we have to find our own place, our own destiny, and not allow other people to get ahead of us in what we're doing. So because of this, it's needed by the individual to make a decision, as hard as it can be. And even though it may be hard to make a decision must be taken to say, look, I can't do this or I can do this. So what I can do is talk about this. I definitely can, and I need to do this, right? There's a reason for everything. So here the message is very clear about a person who needs to take their own initiatives and stop being harassed by others in their decisions that are being made for them. And so the thing is that when you have an individual who has a crisis point where they can't make a decision, the tarot is very helpful with that. And basically it's a form of divination. There's many forms. There's geomancy. There's any type of mancy. There's many ways to divine, to get a message from what exactly? What are we doing here? When I say the tarot and I say divination, what are we actually, where is the information coming from? It's very interesting how things occur all the time. Now, the information that I get through these cards are coming from, it's difficult to say. It's actually genuinely difficult to say, because on one hand I can say my higher self is guiding the cards to show me a reflection of who I truly am. Does that help? I hope it does, because if it's not a significant enough answer, it might not work for you. But basically, the cards themselves, as they are alive and they are a living book, which means that the book is constantly metamorphosizing. It's constantly changing, you know what I mean? So this is the thing. What are we going to do about this as a species? That's even a question to ask. There's so many different types of races, blah, blah, blah. They have their different divination systems. If you feel drawn that something is trying to speak to you in an intuitive way, it can be anything. It's not just a tarot deck. It can be a person on the street. It can be a certain brand of clothing. It can be a book. It can be a certain food. The universe is alive and conscious, and when our higher self, as in our immortal self, that the being who we truly are outside of this physical body and outside of time and space, is trying to kind of poke us in the right direction, kind of jab us here and there to make sure we get onto the path, which helps us to our enlightenment, to fulfill our truest destiny in a sense. Now, the Book of Life, or the Akashic Records, or the Tarot, or Ifa, or any system of geomancy or divination, or the I Ching, all of them are valid and relevant depending on the culture you're in. It's just important to feel what is truly yours and to work with it. And if you feel the tarot calls your name, start to learn it. If you feel astrology calls your name, start to learn it. Very, very simple. It's just intuitive. And reading the world, reading things, and understanding intuitive flow of destiny is what is truly, truly going to advance us as a species, because it's not just about one system or the other. It's about the fact that we are or are not connected with our higher self, which is essentially our portal to the Creator, to the divine, to the light and the darkness and all that exists and all that ever will be and all that ever was. So our best friend is actually ourself, but our immortal self. Sometimes our worst enemy is our mortal self, because our mortal selves can get hungry, horny, and angry. And hungry, horny, and angry, and I mean horny in the negative sense of like lustful rage, those three combined, you don't get what you want, the dark wolf, so to speak, comes out and starts to destroy things. And that's the most important piece of this puzzle, is not to get too caught up in the boundless energies that are. It's just more about existing within the framework of who you are as an individual, and by that I mean just simply doing what your intuitive flow wishes for you to do and not argue with it, because the intuitive flow is normally the best thing we can ever do. But this intuitive flow must come with the greatest amount of connection to our highest self possible, because sometimes flow can just be reaction and we can confuse the two. And the bodily, third-dimensional, dense, survival-based mechanics of our thought processes and bodily reactions can oftentimes disregard and disrespect the higher message coming to us in any given moment, and not allowing us to fully fulfill what we can to its greatest potential. In other words, we cut ourselves short because we felt like it, right? How many of us have done this on a daily basis for many years, if not our whole lives? So that's the most important thing right now, is to simply understand that a person can't be something they're not. And if they try to be something they're not, they're only going to come into more frustration, more pain, more hurt. Death is always around the corner, and it's simply up to us to free our minds and not allow anything, including ourselves, to stop our own processes. In any sense, what's given to us, even if it's an obstacle, is useful to us in some way. The manifestations of our own archetypal influences and our own shadows and our own, everything that we don't want can become those blockages. And if there's a blockage, it means that there's either a blockage within us or there's an external blockage. And if it's an external blockage, it's because it's something you probably shouldn't be doing. And if it's a blockage within you, it's because there's something you haven't worked through yet, and it's manifesting as a personal apprehension towards something, or a personal blockage. So again, this can help to realize what those blockages are. It can help to make you understand how to remove them. And the intuitive gathering of messages that comes to every tarot reading is often much more important, if not the most important part of the reading, rather than just the cards themselves, because these are more of a guidebook. This isn't like a fixed, one-dimensional interpretation. There's many ways of looking at it, and it's very important for us to understand that the free flowing of consciousness is sometimes the most important thing. We can't interrupt it. Therefore, I suspect that if it's foolish enough for a person to go against their own free will choice, then it's foolish enough for that person to make those choices and suffer those consequences. That being said, the only thing necessary to continue speaking about right now is the fact that the tarot isn't the only system of divination there is. It's just one. I work with 4 different decks. I have the Spirit Animal Wisdom Oracle, Crystal Grid Oracle, and the Celtic Tree Oracle. And these allow me to call upon the 4 elements of this world, in a sense the 4 kingdoms, the plant, animal, mineral, and human kingdoms. And this is the way that I have been shown by this guiding spirit of light that is giving this knowledge through me all the time. And is the only thing that really has ever gotten me into the correct path is this particular thing itself. Because sometimes our intuitions are based on judgments that are actually quite convoluted and quite dirty in a spiritual sense, not clear, unclean. So clearing the way forward is the most important aspect of what tarot can do. So I hope this gives some good understanding of why tarot is important. You may have already heard of these things before. If not, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to help, and always offering non-judgmental advice to those who are willing to listen. Thank you, and keep enjoying living as a sacred being in a sacred place and a sacred time. And in case you're wondering if tarot has anything to do with astrology, it does and it doesn't. Many people give correspondences that are fixed, which are actually only recent inventions or not necessarily the only truth. You can see them as being archetypally related, but fixed correspondences between astrology and tarot don't necessarily exist outside of the will of the person making the correspondences and willing to believe in them. So that's just something to keep in mind. But they can help to create a deeper understanding and to kind of surgically open with a kind of living humanistic type of response, not just giving you, okay, here's the archetypal logic of this fatalistic astrological system, there's nothing left to say. Whereas if you still have further questions, the tarot can open up further and give you a better understanding and a more personalized level and a very unique and one-time offering of specific form of knowledge through which you can then further justify your decisions and taking your destiny into your own hands or not. It's simply a matter of being well informed and going by the 3 laws of will, which is basically there's a point to be proven, someone will prove it, and someone will try to disprove it. So you can make the point of proving or disproving anything, but at the end of the day, if your body disagrees with what thoughts are happening, with the thoughts that are coming, it's almost like when your wife disagrees with how you spend your money. It's not about being obligated into something wrong that you don't actually want to do against your free will. It's about the alchemical balance of the divine feminine presence also giving her opinion in, and that's your body. And if your body doesn't vibrate with something, it means it's wrong for you. Listen to your body more than anything. Your body will always tell you the truth. I'm also giving away 1 free reading at this time, so if you've watched this far and you're interested, it's for you. Just write me a comment in the description and I will get back to you.